Good morning. Good morning, traders. How about you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Seeing a number of familiar names streaming in. So glad that you guys all join us this fine Tuesday morning. So yes, we can be able to start now since we are a good number. So hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Mitch Paniaro and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, you do know during these webinars, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets, we identify what trading opportunities we will be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So as usual, we do have the Afriforex team joining us as well. So John is here in the back office. So he'll be here to assist you on whatever questions or queries you might have. So feel free to ask those questions either in the Q&A section or in the chat box, and John will be there to respond to you. Or even if you just want to say hello to him, feel free to do so. We are quite friendly. I don't think you guys should be scared of us. But anyway, let's jump straight into today's webinar. So as usual, we'll start off with our watch list. Now, for those of you who are not on the Telegram channel, we did end up informing you what our watch list was looking at yesterday. But today, our focus has changed on a number of pairs. So this is what we're going to be looking at. So we'll start off here with the euro pairs. So you can see we're going to be looking for selling opportunities on the euro, the British pound, as well as the Japanese yen. And we're going to look to mix and match these three pairs with all these pairs on the buy side. So since today being a Tuesday, I mean, we had a holiday yesterday, so we were not available. So there's not necessarily much of a review in terms of the pairs. So we'll pretty much just jump straight into the pairs that we're going to be looking at today. So even in terms of screenshots, remember, guys, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are in the chat box. So if there's something you don't understand, we are here to assist you guys in whatever way possible. So feel free to do that as well. Our contact details should be in the chat box. You can reach to us via WhatsApp. So let's focus on today's pairs. So we'll start off with the euro pairs. Mix and that, match that with the pairs on the buy side. Do the same thing with the British pound, then move on to the Japanese yen before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off, we'll start off here with the euro against the Canadian dollar. As you can see, nearly all the pairs that we're going to be looking at are brand new, hence there's no review. So on the euro against the Canadian dollar, our bias here is to look for selling opportunity. You can see yesterday, the sells on the euros did end up coming in during the US session. And you can see the timings that we keep on mentioning, 10, 3, and 4:30. You can clearly see the way the price did end up coming down at exactly 4:30. But today, the bias is definitely going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we'll be focusing on sells based on these three major areas. So we have the red support and resistance area right there. Right now, you can clearly see we're back within an area of support. So if we are looking for sells, this is definitely an area where they're buyers. So we do not want to jump in on any selling opportunities just yet. And then we also have the main buyers area down here at the bottom. Now, the fact that we're back within this buyers area, we'll be waiting for one of two things in terms of the game plan of how we'll be looking at it. Obviously, the best place to look for the sell would be higher up within this particular area, ideally, hopefully within the top area. But you can realize we've pointed a blue level, a blue support and resistance area within this area, where even though that we are still going to be looking for sells as long as we're holding below the red support and resistance area, there's a possibility that the price could end up reacting within this particular location before it does go down. Now, if it doesn't do that, ideally, remember, we'll still be waiting for the price within the seller's area. So ideally, look for those selling opportunities. Right now, everybody's jumping in on sell. Let a few people be incited that it's a buy before we're able to grab those selling opportunities. Now, alternatively, you can see the fact that we're within a buyer's area. We always keep on mentioning we do not want to jump in on selling opportunities within a buyer's or vice versa, buying within a seller's area. So in this situation, the other alternative or what could end up happening, you could end up getting the price actually breaching to the downside. Maybe the big boy sellers might end up coming back. If we do end up seeing that, remember, we don't necessarily want to just jump straight into the trade. We want to wait for a pullback to come back within the same support and resistance area. And especially if it lines up within one of the market opening times. Remember, we keep on pointing them out, 10, 3, and 4:30. We could end up finding some nice selling opportunities available for us on the euro against the Canadian dollar. So we'll be waiting for one of these two situations to end up happening. But ideally, remember, the reason why we point out both situations is we do not want you guys to be surprised. Neither are we. So we always prepare for both situations. If this happens, we know what we'll do. If something else happens opposite, we also have a game plan for that. It's not just one way or the other. If you're only thinking that the price is going to go up and it comes down, you could end up missing another trading opportunity down below that particular area. So that is a game plan for the euro against Canadian dollar. So we move on to the next euro pair. So right here, we have the euro against the Australian dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. This move that's been coming down, possibly not necessarily to do with the euro. We did end up pointing out, or at least noting, that the Australian dollar is showing a lot of strength. And remember, strength on the Australian dollar, since it is the counter currency, will end up bringing this price down. And we will end up having a look at correlation as well. But you can see today during the Asian session, the price has really come to the downside. We've just broken this support and resistance area. Remember, most of the time, in order for us to confirm a level has been broken, we need the price to come back to that area and show us, or at least evidence that it's actually holding below within that area for us to end up being able to look for a selling opportunity. So this will be the game plan. Those of you who have done the one-on-one, as well as the AMP, you could end up finding the price coming back within this particular support and resistance area. You can see it's an area where sellers had reacted from multiple times. The fact that the price did end up breaching and holding to the upside just because we've reached both levels, most of the time, especially when the price is really come down quite aggressive, you don't necessarily find the price is giving that deep of a pullback. So that's the reason why we're watching out for this level. But don't be surprised if the price is actually able to go back towards that blue support and resistance area for us to end up looking for selling opportunities. So we will be waiting to see what ends up happening on this one. But ideally, the game plan is definitely to look for sales, but we do not want to jump in on any selling opportunities all the way down here. Let's wait for that pullback to come in so that we can end up having a good area where we can actually be able to put our stop loss for us to continue with those selling opportunities. So hope that is clear, at least the game plan on what is happening to the euro against the Australian dollar as we move on to the next euro pair. So right here, we're dealing with the euro against the Swiss franc. And in this kind of pair, our bias here is definitely to look for selling opportunities. We'll be focusing on these three areas of interest for us to look for those sells. However, if you realize we're so close towards the bias area right now, so nothing much for us to do just yet. As you can see, the price has come down. Even as the price has been here, it still managed to get back all the way to that support and resistance area. So in this situation, the one thing we'll be waiting for is a pullback, which does seem to be coming in right now. So let's wait to see how that pullback comes in within this particular support and resistance area. If it lines up within one of the market opening times, we could end up finding a nice selling opportunity here. But if it doesn't, and you do see the price coming up higher and holding above this area, we will still be looking for our selling opportunities at the top. Because it seems as if, based on the higher time frame, you can see we do seem to be in some huge range bouncing between these two levels. So don't be surprised that the price doesn't react within the support and resistance area and comes all the way to the main sellers right there at the top. You can see it's done that the last two times the price has been here, it's managed to go all the way up within those areas. So let's wait to see what ends up happening. But overall, the bias here is definitely still going to be looking for selling opportunities on the euro against the Swiss franc. But remember, the second game plan, if that pullback doesn't happen and we do see the sellers really coming in aggressive, let's wait to see the price actually holding below within this area for us to get confirmation that we can actually end up looking for some nice selling opportunities here on the euro against the Swiss franc. So I hope the game plan is clear on the euro against the Swiss franc as we move on to the next euro pair. So here we have the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Now, the same way we had a look at the euro against the Australian dollar, and we did mention that the Australian dollar is showing a lot of strength. It's a similar situation with the New Zealand dollar. Remember, during the Asian session, most of the currencies that are mainly active are the Japanese yen, the New Zealand dollar, as well as the Australian dollar, as those economies are actually active. The people who are living there are actually awake, they're doing their trades, or whatever trading it is they're doing, whatever business it is they're doing. So there's a lot of money flowing in those currencies. You find the news events comes out. That's the reason why you find a lot of activity during the Asian session for those pairs. And you can clearly see the strength on the New Zealand dollar. The price has really come down quite aggressive, but it's a similar situation. Right now, we've come down so much, but we're so close to the buyer's area. You can see the last time the price was within this particular area, you can clearly see the price has ended up reacting. So we're not just going to jump in on selling opportunities just because we can see sellers are back. Let's wait to see if we can end up getting that pullback coming in. Similar story with all these other pairs that we've looked at. Hopefully we get the price coming back in within the support and resistance area for us to look for some potential sells, especially, remember, if it lines up within one of the market opening times. But if you find the sellers are very strong and these buyers are not able to do anything and the price is able to break this area to the downside, it's a similar situation. A break is when the price actually goes below a certain area and holds below. So let's wait to see in terms of the pullback coming in. If the price ends up holding below, there could be a very nice selling opportunity. But if it comes down, then just come straight back in. There's no selling opportunity. You could end up finding that's just a probe. So we'll be waiting to see what ends up happening on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. But as we move on, we've been looking at the next few currency pairs, as we look at the New Zealand dollar as well as the Australian dollar correlation, that could end up giving us clues actually on when we can actually end up jumping in those trading opportunities. So hope that is clear on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. As we move on to the last euro pair that we do have, here we have the euro against the US dollar. Our bias here is to look for selling opportunities. And you can see the price has been coming down. Seems like we did end up getting some huge pullback, but did end up coming in, was this on Thursday or so? Sorry, Friday. Now, it seems yesterday the market did manage to actually start coming down. These same sellers have actually been able to pull this price down lower. However, price is back within this buyer's area. And remember, we do not want to jump in on any selling opportunities, especially when we're so close towards these buyers. So we'll be waiting to see one of two things to happen. We need either a pullback to come in or the sellers could actually continue going down lower. So for us, or at least for me, what we'll be waiting for is the price to actually give us some sort of pullback. Hopefully it comes back within the support and resistance area before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. That would be the best area to look for the sales. But if we do see the price not necessarily slowing down or no big boy sellers reacting within this area, be aware that we might actually potentially be in some sort of range, as you can see, bouncing between these two major levels. And you could still see the price coming back all the way till the top before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. So do take note of that. We'll end up taking a look at how the market ends up reacting in terms of that pullback for us to see some potential sells on the euro against the US dollar. So I hope that is clear on the game plan on the euro pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match to look for selling opportunities on the euro and mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side. So right now, we're going to do the exact same thing with the British pound pairs before we do end up moving on to the yen pairs. So starting off with the British pound pairs, we have the British pound against the Canadian dollar. So similar situation, brand new entry on our watch list. In this situation here, our bias is definitely going to be looking for selling opportunities. This one could end up finding some nice potential sells coming in, especially since we are approaching a very nice support and resistance area right here. Those who have done the AMP class will know. And remember also, we're actually having the last AMP class for this year, which will be starting today. So I do end up hoping you students are ready for that. So today, bias is going to be looking for sells. Right now, we're just actually getting a pullback. Very interesting to see how the market will end up reacting within this area, but we are within a very nice location. Let's wait to see if we can end up getting some big boy sellers actually coming in within this area for us to look for those selling opportunities. As you can see, the way the price came up, sellers have come down and we are pulling back quite nicely. And when I say nicely, you can see the slow move to the upside. And if you compare the last time the price was there, look at how aggressive they moved. This is a good sign, especially for us, since we are going to be looking for those selling opportunities. So let's wait to see what ends up happening. But overall, we'll be reaching out for this particular support and resistance area. This level doesn't hold, we'll be watching to see if the price can end up going up higher. But since right now we're so close to this first area, this will definitely be an area of interest for us. So hope that's clear, at least on the game plan of the British pound against the Canadian dollar. So moving on to the British pound against the Australian dollar. Here, brand new entry on our watch list. And in this situation, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So remember, I did point out that Australian dollar pairs are showing a lot of strength. And you can clearly see the way the prices have really come down. The Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. Similar situation when we had a look at the euro against the Australian dollar. You can see that huge move to the downside. So it's a similar situation with the British pound against the Australian dollar. Price has really come down quite aggressive. It does seem as if we're attempting to breach and hold below this level. We'll be interested to see within this particular area, but most of the time, most people are definitely going to be incited to start jumping in on selling opportunities just here. And since the fact that we've not necessarily seen any big boy sellers just yet, or at least within this area, chances are I'm personally going to be waiting to see if the price can come back within this particular area before being able to look for selling opportunities. However, we'll be very interested to see how it ends up reacting within this location. But if you notice how the buyers have come in, if you look at that last big move to the upside, that was quite a strong buyer's move. And the way the sellers came down, you start to wonder, why is there a wick down there at the bottom? Those are small indications that indicate pressure. So that's the reason why I'm most likely looking to see if we can end up getting the price coming up a bit higher. But we'll be still interested to see how it ends up reacting here. Because if we do end up seeing the buyers struggling to go to the upside within this area, so maybe you find the buyers attempting to go up and you see the aggressive sellers coming in, and on the pullback, the price is really holding to the downside, then you could end up finding a nice selling opportunity available right there. But remember, as we mentioned, watch out for correlation. This is the British pound against the Australian dollar. We've seen the Australian dollar pairs coming down quite aggressive. And you can see they look a bit similar with the British pound against the Australian dollar. So let's see if this pullback is going to come back to here. Remember, I did point out this blue support and resistance area where the price could still pull back towards that area before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. So similar story, but let's wait to see what ends up happening. In this situation, it is going to be within this red support and resistance area. So hope that is clear, at least on the British pound against the Australian dollar. As we move on to the next British pound pair. Here we have the British pound against the Swiss franc. Similar situation, branding entering our watch list. And here our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we will be focusing on these three areas to potentially look for sells. So right now, similar situation, I think, with the British pound against the Canadian dollar, where the price did end up coming down. You can see it's starting to pull back. It is within a very interesting area. So we want to see what kind of reaction happens within here, especially if we do end up getting a probe or price action signal. Probes do end up indicating quite a bit of pressure, and at the same time, it incites the opposite party to come in. And that's the reason why we keep on pointing about probes, because they do end up giving you some very nice entry criteria. So we wait to see what ends up happening within this area. But remember, price can still come back all the way to this red support and resistance area for us to look for those selling opportunities, especially due to the fact that we're dealing with the Swiss franc pairs. The Swiss franc does not necessarily give you that many pips. So in fact, the total move to this up and down side is just around 53 pips. So that is easily possible. You can see that's exactly what the price did yesterday. Price can still pull back towards this SNR, but we will still be looking for those selling opportunities on the British pound against the Swiss franc. But right now, since we're so close within this area of interest, let's see what kind of reaction happens within here for some potential sells coming in, potentially during the London session. Remember, 10, 3, and 4:30, 10 o'clock during the London market open. Now, hope that's clear as we move on to the next British pound pair. Remember, I did point out that the New Zealand dollar, similar with the Australian dollar, is showing us a lot of strength. And you can clearly see the same situation here. Looks pretty much the same as the euro against the New Zealand dollar, where the price has really come down during the Asian session, potentially in some sort of small range. As you can see, the prices are ended up reacting within this area. And right now, we're so close towards this buyer's area. But the fact that we're within a buyer's area, it means that we are not meant to jump in on selling opportunities just yet. For us, we'll wait to see. Hopefully, we can end up getting this pullback coming in within this particular support and resistance area for us to look for selling opportunities. We want to see some sort of slowdown within that area, or at least a sign of big boy sellers are able to come back for us to look for those potential selling opportunities there. Now, be aware that price can still come all the way to the top within this red support and resistance area. We've seen it many times before. Most people have seen this move to the downside. Everyone is going to start jumping in on sell. You see the pullback coming in. Any small move to the downside or a big red candle, people will start jumping in on sells, not necessarily realizing that the main sellers are still here at the top. So price can still pull back all the way to this area, incite a few people to look for selling opportunities, buying opportunities before we're able to look for sell. But also watch out, even though we don't have, or at least we have these three areas, we also have some sort of support and resistance area right here. You can see it's an area where sellers have reacted from before. The price breached the upside, it did end up holding above. So you could easily find the price actually, rather than pulling back towards this area, it could end up coming back all the way till this particular area before we're able to look for selling opportunities. So we'll be watching out for both of these areas for those potential selling opportunities. So hope that is clear on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar as we move on to the next and last British pound pair that we do have, which is the British pound against the US dollar. Now, in this situation here, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities on the British pound against the US dollar. And we have identified these three areas of interest where these sells could potentially work out from. So right now, you can see on Friday, or at least yesterday, the price really did end up coming down quite aggressive. But today, we are actually getting our pullback coming in. So this is exactly what we want to see. But just because the pullback is coming in, that doesn't mean that when the price is within that area, you just jump in on selling opportunities. Definitely not. You wait to see if we can end up getting some sort of slowdown within this particular area, or at least some big boy sellers actually coming back in before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. But you can see right now the buyers do look a bit strong. So I think this one, we just need to be slightly patient on this. Remember the market opening times, 10, 3, and 4:30. This, since we're dealing with the US dollar pairs, we could end up finding it being active during the US session. So we'll be interested to see what ends up happening on this one, but we'll definitely wait and see. Now, one thing to just take note of before we end up moving on to the yen pairs, I know we keep on pointing out and sounding like a broken record, mentioning 10, 3, and 4:30. But I think starting the end, this is the last week, I think those will be the specific times. Daylight savings is going to be taking effect next week, especially for the London session. So rather than the London session opening at 10 o'clock, it will actually be opening at 11, 1 hour later. So let's see, daylight savings in the UK. You can quickly search this, and you should be able to be given at least some dates. You can see here, March 27th till 27th of October. So from 27th, which is Sunday, this coming Sunday, after that, Monday morning, it will not be 10 o'clock, it will be 11 o'clock. But don't worry, since you guys are here, we'll end up adjusting. And the next week after that is when the US session is going to change. So next week it is, or at least the last week of October, it is going to be for the UK. So it's going to move from 10 to 11. But for the US, that's going to happen the next week. So on the 3rd of November, still on Sunday. So rather than it being 3 and 4:30, it's going to be 4 and 5:30. So do take note of that. The timings do change, and it might end up being at least even better for us, especially during these morning sessions, since we keep on rushing to try and finish the session before 10 so that we can be available for the London session. The good thing is now, at least we'll have an hour to prepare after the webinar for the London market actually to end up opening. So I do end up hoping guys are looking forward to that, and do make sure you remember about that. So let's focus on the yen pairs. As remember, we've done the euro and the British pound, so we'll do the same thing with the yen pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side before we do end up having a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off with the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Remember, I did point out that the yen pairs are definitely showing a lot of weakness, and we can see the way the prices are going up. But overall, here on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. But based on where the price is at right now, might not necessarily be the best area to look for those buying opportunities, mainly because, especially if we do end up going to a higher time frame, you can see this is a high, or at least the market has been ranging between these two levels for the longest time. And you do know when the market ranges, we do end up getting some huge probes that end up coming in, as you can see within these areas. So right now, the way the price went up, weren't fully convinced that this level has actually been broken, because remember, we need the price to actually fall above an area for us to confirm that that level has been broken. So if that's not the case, and you find that that's actually just a probe, maybe all those late buyers jumping in on buys right now, most of them have their stop losses below here. So most likely we might end up finding the price coming at least below within this area, potentially coming back within the support and resistance area for us to incite enough people to start looking for selling opportunities. And we are within an area of interest, we could end up looking for those buying opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. But be aware, if this level doesn't hold, and remember the overall story, we are within a huge range. So if this level doesn't hold, chances are we can still come back down all the way till the main buyers area down here at the bottom, and we will still be looking for those buying opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. But right now, I'd advise you to jump in on the buying opportunities just yet. Similar situation, we personally would not be looking for the sells, even though we know the price could end up coming down lower, but we are more focused on the overall direction. Most of the time when we start looking for the counter trades, the more we're focused on the sells, we don't necessarily realize when the buy is actually going to happen. So we have experienced that so many times, where you start focusing on the opposite side, you miss the actual big move, where you're just trying to get a few pips off the market just coming down within a small SNR area. So for us, we wait for the pullback before we end up looking for those buying opportunities on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, moving on to the next pair we do have, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. Similar situation, we have the main buyers down here at the bottom. You can see we had this support and resistance area that the price breached to the upside, and the price can still potentially come back within this support and resistance area, as well as we have this level right here. Now, similar situation with the Canadian dollar against the yen. Not fully convinced that that is actually a breach just yet. We've seen many times that the market has actually attempted. Can't see how many times it's actually attempted to break this area to the upside, and it hasn't actually ended up probing. You can see the way the sellers have reacted every time that the price actually ends up probing within that area. So we'll be waiting out to see what ends up happening. If the price ends up holding above, we could end up looking for those buying opportunities, mainly because the Australian dollar pairs are definitely showing a lot of strength, and this one being the yen is also showing a lot of weakness. So most of the time when that happens, you don't necessarily get that much of a pullback. So we'll be interested to see what ends up happening here. But ideally for me, I would be waiting for price a bit lower before I'm able to look for those buying opportunities. But if you do end up seeing the sellers struggling within this area here, and it actually ends up coming back and holding above within the support and resistance area, then you could end up looking for a buying opportunity. Have identified the next problem area. Don't usually end up having multiple levels because this level has not yet been confirmed that it's been broken yet. But we have identified, or at least you can end up taking note of this particular price around 101.140. That within that area, we could end up finding some potential issues. But for now, let's just focus on these three main pairs, or at least these main levels. Let's see what kind of pullback ends up coming in, because you can see the way the sellers come in, they do look a bit strong. So chances are we could get that pullback coming in within our main SNR area here before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So hope that is clear on the Australian dollar against the Japanese and what our game plan is looking like there. So moving on to the next currency pair we have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Similar situation here. Our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. It's a similar situation with most of these yen pairs. The way they've gone to the upside, not necessarily convinced that they've actually been broken just yet. Remember, right now we've got the price going to the upside. We're just getting the pullback. If we do find the price actually holding above, that will confirm that that level has been broken, and we could potentially end up looking for buying opportunities. And that's the reason why we have taken note of the next problem area. Similar situation as we looked at the Australian dollar against the yen, around 174.772. But remember, it's not necessarily that exact price because most brokers end up having different prices. It's not necessarily exact, but as long as it's within that area, we should be okay. So that's the reason why we wanted to see if this price actually holds above, then could end up looking for a buy and could end up watching out for this next problem area right there at the top. But since we've seen many times, especially when you end up looking at a higher time frame, you could easily find that this is actually a probe. We've seen many times because we're within a major SNR area. So if you do end up finding the price coming back in and holding below, then chances are we could be coming back to our middle SNR. Similar situation with the other yen pair that we've had a look at, the Australian dollar against the yen. And remember, the yen pairs are very much correlated. They're really, they correlate very well. So meaning that when you see one thing happening on one pair, you definitely will end up seeing it happening on the next. So wait to see what ends up happening. So if you do see the prices coming back in and within the same area, SNR area, you could potentially end up finding some nice trading opportunities on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So hope that is clear as we move on to the next yen pair we do have. Here we have the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Remember, we did point out that the New Zealand dollar pairs showed a lot of strength. In similar situation, the yen did end up showing weakness. So this pair has gone up quite aggressive during the Asian session. Remember, both of these pairs are very active during this Asian session. So right now, the price has gone to the upside, reached this particular SNR area where it did seem as if we're in some sort of small range. Most of the time when the market ranges, you'll end up finding the price is actually pulling back towards that particular support and resistance area, confirming that that level has been broken before actually looking for buying opportunities. So wait to see what ends up happening here. Right now, definitely the sellers are the ones coming in, especially if you look at a smaller time frame. Look at how aggressive the sellers are in comparison to the buyers. So in this situation, we'll want the price to come in a bit lower inside a few more sellers because as usual, we do not want to jump in on buys so close towards the sellers area. Let's wait to see if we can end up getting the price coming back with it here. That will give us a lot, much better risk to reward and a higher probability of our trade working out. So hope that is clear on the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen as we move on to the last yen pair we do have, which is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Running entering our watch list, and this situation, our bias here is definitely going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the way we keep on pointing out let the market confirm that it's actually broken a level. Let's wait for the hold. You can see in this situation, that same high, the price looked as if it was going to the upside. All those late buyers jumping in on buys here, all of them having their stop losses here. I would not be surprised if the price actually ends up coming down a bit lower, comes back potentially within this support and resistance area before able to look for those buying opportunities. So that's the reason why with these yen pairs, not very convinced the way the price is so high up. We definitely want more of a pullback to come in before we're able to look for those buying opportunities on these pairs. So hope that's clear on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. You can see we've just made a new high. Chances are we could potentially pull back. Since we haven't pulled back to that SNR, that's potentially what's going to happen before we end up looking for those buying opportunities. So that is it for all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched the euro, the British pound, as well as the Japanese yen with the pairs on the buy side. So right now, we're going to have a look at the indices before we do end up having a look at gold and silver. So remember, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the Q&A section. I will be addressing all those questions at the end of the webinar. So here we have the NAS 100. Now, on this currency pair, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see if I do end up going up to a higher time frame, you can see the way the market has been struggling and ranging within this particular area. For those of you who have done the one-on-one mentorship as well as the AMP, you can clearly see the pattern that's coming in right now. These are concepts that we do end up teaching, and that's the reason why we'll definitely be looking for selling opportunities on this, and we will be focusing on those exact areas. So if you do want to know how to end up reading this the same way those guys for the AMP, or at least the AMP students, as well as the one-on-one students do end up reading this, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are in the chat box. Today being the first class for the AMP, feel free to end up reaching out to us. We might see what we can do if you are actually interested. So overall, here our bias definitely going to be looking for selling opportunities. The sell have started coming down, but was clearly approaching an area where they're buyers. So we do not necessarily want to jump in on any selling opportunities just yet. Hopefully we can end up still getting a pullback coming in, not necessarily aggressive, want to see the pullback coming in slowly before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. Alternatively, you can see we do have a major SNR area here. You can see there's a price coming down, even though the price came all the way down within this area. As long as we do not get the price coming back in and holding below, that level was not broken. And that's exactly what we want to see, because you can see it attempted that twice. So the price came up, came down again, but similar situation, never held below. It actually came down. When it went to the upside, it came and confirmed by holding to the upside. So that's something what we want to see. We want to see a bridge to the downside. We see the price holding below, we should be able to look for selling opportunities on the NAS 100. But remember, here we are purely technical, meaning if the price is able to go up higher, we breach and hold above the red support and resistance area, our bias at that point in time will switch and we will actually start looking for buying opportunities on the NAS 100. So I hope that is clear, at least on the game plan of what we're looking at here. As we move on to the next pair that we will be looking at, here we have the Dow Jones. So on the Dow Jones, our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. In fact, the bias did end up just changing yesterday. So overall, we'll be looking for selling opportunities based on these three areas that we have identified. But if you notice where we are right now, if we're looking for sales, well, within a buyer's area, so that's a no-no for us. We will be waiting for a pullback to come in, potentially it comes back in within this support and resistance area, see some sort of probe or price action signal for us to look for sales. You can see this is a major area that the buyers kept on holding. The fact that we needed a lot of strength to reach the downside. Let's see if we can end up getting that pullback coming in to test that SNR area before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. But remember, if the buyers are not interested, and you do see the sellers really coming to the downside, remember, let's wait for a pullback and a hold below for us to end up looking for selling opportunities within that area as well. So hope that is clear, at least on the Dow Jones, what our game plan is. Remember, we're purely technical, meaning if we break and hold above the red support resistance area, ideally at that time, we can actually start looking for buying opportunities on the Dow Jones. So hope that is clear. As we move on to the fan favorites, gold and silver. People like trading the metals mainly because they really must move quite a bit. Or since you're entering on maybe a small lot size, you really want the markets to move. So remember, deal with risk to reward. Risk to reward is one big thing. You can't make money in trading without risk to reward. So do end up focusing on getting at least a 1:2 or a bit more. That will end up definitely improving on your trading. So here we have silver. Silver, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. But if you notice, one thing, or at least the number of things and concepts that we look at is one, what is the market structure? In this situation, you can see we're potentially entering in some sort of range. If that is the case, then we do not want to jump in on our buying opportunities here. The best place to look for a buy within a range would be within this particular buyer's area, at least the bottom of the range. We do see the price breaking and holding above, then we should be able to look for a buying opportunity. So the break comes in with that, and we need to see the actual hold to the upside. And if we do see that, then we should be able to look for nice buying opportunities. And remember, if these markets are within these areas, within one of the market opening times, it increases your probability of your trade actually working out. So also be picky about when you actually take your trades. So overall, we'll definitely be still looking for buying opportunities. Remember, as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area. If the price breaches and holds below this red SNR, ideally at that point in time, our bias will actually switch and we will start looking for selling opportunities on silver. So hope that is clear on our game plan on silver as we move on to the next pair that we do have, which is gold. Number one fan favorite for most people. So here, our bias is definitely going to be looking for buying opportunities. Similar situation with silver in terms of the story. It does look pretty similar. It's exactly the same. It do seem to be correlated quite a bit, but that's mainly because we are dealing with gold and the US dollar, and it's silver and the US dollar. So it's a US dollar that has that main effect on this. So overall, bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. The price is within an area where the sellers were not going to jump in on any buying opportunity just yet. We need one of two things. Either the pullback needs to come in, so a similar situation where we might find ourselves in some sort of range, or if this price wasn't good enough, you could end up seeing the price attempting to come down, and it actually ends up giving you a probe. So maybe inciting a few more people to look for sells before we're able to end up looking for those buying opportunities. But if these sellers are not interested, and you do end up finding the price is able to break this area to the upside, and remember, we need the price to actually come back in and hold above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities within that particular area. But remember, since we're dealing with gold and silver, as long as we're holding above the red SNR, our bias is to look for buys. If we do find the price breaching and holding below the red support and resistance area, our bias will switch and we will start looking for selling opportunities on gold. So hope that is clear. Now, game plan on all the kinds of pairs. As you can see, this is our watch list for those of you who are late. We'll be looking for selling opportunities on the euro, the British pound, and the yen. And we have mix and match them with all the pairs on the buy side. So I guess that is pretty much it. In terms of fundamentals, it's not necessarily that much today. We did have some small news early in the morning for the Japanese yen. But that seems to be it. The only other thing that's coming out, or at least a piece of fundamentals, is for the Canadian dollar, which is going to be coming out at 3:30. But you can clearly see the whole day today, we're going to get a lot of speeches, but nothing really that's going to actually change any bias of ours just yet. So wait to see what ends up happening. Tomorrow, similar situation, nothing much coming in during the Asian session, as well as the London session. It seems like mainly the US session will be active. So wait to see what ends up happening there. So can be able to address any questions on the Q&A section. Not seeing much. I'm seeing Patricia Mungai saying, "Hi, Mitch, please display your study and NAS again." No problem. You can do that. But also remember, we have our YouTube channel. That's the reason why, if you guys have missed a number of things, if we're a bit too quick, you can end up going back to review, look at the exact levels that we have. Just feel free to, and if you're there, just make sure to drop us a like. And make sure also to subscribe. It does end up helping us out a lot, but you should be able to find that there. But overall, here on the NAS 100, looking for selling opportunities. Right now, the price is approaching this buyer's area. We do not want to jump in on any selling opportunities just yet. We need that pullback to come in or a breach to the downside and the price holding below for us to continue with those sells. And similar situation with the Dow Jones. Right now, we're so close, or at least we're within this buyer's area. So we need either a breach to the downside and the price pulling back and holding below, or we need this pullback to actually come in. So for right now, There's nothing much we are going to do. We're going to wait for one of the two situations to happen, one of the two scenarios to happen. Once we know one of the opposite parties is there, then we will be looking for our trading opportunities. But remember also, the NAS 100 and the Dow Jones are mainly active during the US session due to the fact that they are American indices. So do take note of that as well. So I hope that's clear for you, Patricia. And I'm not seeing any more questions, which is fine. I know today, since there wasn't necessarily much of a review of pairs as well as screenshots, the webinar has gone a bit by quite quickly. So, but tomorrow we'll definitely be displaying all the screenshots that we did manage to get. So remember, guys, if you do manage taking yourselves based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. They do not need to be the best trades. Focus on you yourself. If you don't necessarily want us to share them, you can also let us know. But ideally, we do want to end up helping you guys out as much as possible. So I guess that's it from me and from us. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. We do appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have found a lot of value in this session. And yeah, I want to just thank you guys so much. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Happy trading. God bless. And bye for now. Cheers, guys.